Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the Liberal Artist Podcast. I am your host, Bodio. With me, I have Kaylie Horowitz.
Yo.
And Andy Gibby Gibson.
Whoopsie! We blew up Neo Tokyo again.
I don't think that's a whoopsie moment, but I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, I was just going for chilled biker, but okay.
Right. How's everybody? I'm half asleep because I was watching Jeff Keighley's Not E3. Let's talk about video games fest. And I passed out while they were talking about the Last of Us TV show.
Oh, there's a TV show coming.
Yeah, and I honestly couldn't give less of a shit.
That makes sense. That is the kind of game that makes sense for as a directional development, but I agree. I'm like, I don't know if I'm really interested.
I think what happened is Sony saw that, you know, things like Detective Pikachu and Sonic and Castlevania did really well, and they got tired of getting dunked on before Morbius. So they were just like, let's just greenlight everything. So there's Last of Us, there's God of War.
No, just give us more BS.
Right.
Just give us more of the BS, baby. No. It'll work this time for sure.
Release it a third time. No,
did you see the like petitions and like Facebook tags that were like, wait, no, we were all busy that weekend. Do it again.
The audacity for somebody on the internet to be like, no, we were all just like collectively busy that weekend.
We all had plans. Sorry.
We
does
all
this weekend
forgot
work?
about a doctor's appointment.
Yeah, we all had to go to the dentist. All of us in the country at the same time.
Everybody's trying to do the video game show. Like, have they not learned from the hubris of Halo? There is nobody that likes the Halo show.
Halo didn't work, but
Halo did not work.
Arcane is working pretty damn well.
People like Arcane.
And that's coming from somebody that detests League of Legends.
Yeah, we're not doing an Arcane episode because I want nothing to do with Arcane. League of Legends.
Let me just ask this one question. Is Arcane an anthology series?
It's an origin series.
Yes, okay. It's more like an origin
series
for Jinx.
Are fine. Like, origin series are fine. Anthology series are fine. And then when you have, like, Detective Pikachu, when it's whatever you want it to be, who gives a shit, it's Ryan Reynolds, that's fine. The thing is, when you try to do the big video game narrative show, unless you're going in with like 4 books worth of planning like The Witcher did, typically that does not go well.
I feel like that's wrong because you just mentioned The Witcher, which does gangbusters.
Which
we mentioned
20 books for reference.
And yeah, I guess it is more the books, not the video games that they're making. But people wouldn't care without the video games, so I don't know.
I get
but there's also Castlevania. Halo sucked. They made a Resident Evil TV show recently that sucked.
Well, what I'm saying is that, like,
Dragon's Dogma was okay.
People liked, the Witcher books. I mean, people liked the Witcher show because they had the books to lean on if they didn't want to just do the video games. I
would argue people like the Witcher because of the video games.
Well, I'm saying they have it available as like, okay, we need a plot line here that people haven't seen before.
As you're crafting television story, you have some, and you also have one of the like human encyclopedias of Witcher knowledge at the front of your project. You go, Henry, what do we do here?
Yes.
And you just like, oh, what if we did this?
Let's not tell the story in order and confuse fucking everybody for an entire season.
Versus like a Halo, you already have like decades worth of lore and everything, and then you just decide to fuck around and do other things with the story. You can either do something that's already, not to say something that's already been done, but something that you have at least a bit of a skeleton for, like with Castlevania, like with The Witcher, or you can really risk it and try to do it on its own, pretty much just using the elements that you have.
Well, with Castlevania, they turned the narrative on its head. Like, nothing, virtually nothing that happens in the Castlevania show is canon to any TV show or any video game, right? And the problem with Halo as a concept, because this is not the first Halo TV show that's ever existed. This is like the second or third.
Oh, of course, Red versus Blue.
Well, third or fourth then.
I'm kidding.
The problem with Halo is that Master Chief is not a person.
Yeah.
He is big green man make an alien go boom.
And they took his helmet off.
Yeah, so when you like take his helmet off and then make him like have sex, people are like, this isn't, I don't.
And he spends more time without his. No,
fuck
that's
that.
That's not representing your source material well. The more you talk about it, the more I get a little bit of faith in a Last of Us TV show, because
it's gonna be good. Pedro Pascal's in it. He's in the Mandalorian.
It's gonna be great then. Never mind. Yeah. Never mind.
Okay, no, if it has the Pedro Pascal seal of approval.
I had.
Yeah, he's Joel, the main character.
I mean, that makes sense. The thing is that you can watch it pretty much through on YouTube as a Let's Play, and it almost functions like a TV show.
Or just watch the cutscenes.
Yeah, if you just port that over into the format of TV, it'll be at least like a 7 out of 10. My interest is like what liberties they will take and how they will change things up so that it's not just what you've seen before.
See, I feel like you don't do that, because I would want, here is Last of Us, the video game, but with the Mandalorian this time. You know what I mean?
That does work pretty well. I'll give him that.
You know what I still think is a series that's being slept on for being turned into a freaking phenomenal cartoon series?
If you say Undertale, I will end the episode right now.
No, I mean, it could be good, but is like already top tier on its own as a game. Doesn't need to be done anything to.
Yeah.
Psychonauts would make such a good fun, like Camp Lazlo style series. If
they did something like Cuphead did.
Right, yeah, it can be goofy, or it could actually like, let's go investigate shit because we are capable like psychic warriors, but we're also like goofy kids at a summer camp. So like, whoa, anything could happen. Whoa.
Camp Lazlo meets Archer. Something like
that. Right. Like, it could be so good, especially with like a full sequel game having just come out. There's interest for it again.
Play Psychonauts 2 rules.
Pitching this idea right now. You can call me later.
You can't just say Camp Lazlo plus Archer without me just thinking like, Lazlo. Lazlo.
There were 2 scouts who made a friend, and Laszlo was his name. Oh, that theme song lives in the back of my mind rent-free on like a weekly basis.
Look, I think that show affected us all in different ways. For instance, like
I was too old for it.
For instance, the scout leader definitely fucked that tree. Like the migrating mulberry tree.
Yep, Master Lumpus.
She had kids when she sent a photo, and I was just like, I am not old enough to know how that works, but something seems a little off right here. Something is a little,
Cartoon Network was wild and back in the day, and we don't give them enough credit because everyone was too distracted with Adventure Time.
Camp Lazlo is one of those shows that I was already like 14, 15 at the time when it was coming out.
Yeah.
So I just like skirted right past it.
Oh no, that was peak like 5th grade into middle school phase for me. So it was like that, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Love me some Fosters.
And I think
Chowder is another one.
Chowder was out, and so was Flapjack, and then like at the tail end of that, Gumball was about to come out.
Yeah, there was some time between there because they tanked their network with the whole like, let's make some shows that aren't cartoons.
Yep,
they did do that.
Yeah, they did. And the unfortunate thing is, some of that programming was good. Like Destroy, Build, Destroy was pretty good.
Build, Destroy was so fun. And
anything with Andrew WK is going to be fun.
But what was the show? The like,
dude, what would happen?
No, not Dude. No, the like.
They had like some mystery show or
no, the
shit.
Like the kid, the like real life kid who like sees cartoons everywhere.
Inside Jimmy's Head or something like that.
Yes, Inside, like it was a good movie concept, and then they turned it into a series, and that was one of those things that started tanking their like their stuff at the time. Was
what if we showed you more than just cartoons? And then it was like, is your name more than just Cartoon Network? And then they were just like, oh God, I'm sorry. Here's Adventure Time. Here's regular show. Here's Gumball. Here's Emmy-winning content. Please don't leave us.
Yeah, kid who sees cartoons in real life sounds more like a mental disorder than like
it was
a television
It was a
show.
good movie. It was a fun
Yeah.
movie. And
Was
then they
it,
went,
though?
you guys
Might
want
have
more
been.
of this, right? You want a whole series of this, right?
The whole concept of
No,
that
we
show
don't.
was that like the kid snuck into his universe's equivalent of the underground of Disney World,
Okay.
suffered a traumatic brain injury, and
Oh.
then they used part of like the frozen head of Walt Disney's brain
Oh.
to like help him with that, and that's how they got the cartoons in his brain. And
I
it's just
don't.
like,
Uh-oh.
no.
I
No,
thought
no,
it
no,
was,
no, no.
again, fun concept, but it gets real obnoxious as a series. And also, they were the ones that went, let's give the annoying orange a bigger platform.
Was that Cartoon Network? I thought that was
I-
Nickelodeon.
They did that. No,
that was Cartoon Network.
Yeah, fuck them.
Because Nickelodeon was like, yeah, kids like Famboy and Chum Chum, right?
Yeah, fuck them for that.
It was a dark time.
It was a bad time.
It was
for
a
Devin.
bad time.
That was during the writer's strike and shit.
There's a reason we went to the internet.
Honestly, though, like in the early 2010s, there's a reason we all just abandoned ship when we had our own computers at that point. Just went bye, never coming back to TV again.
I'm here for high animation art, which is represented by, of course, Charlie the Unicorn. I think only the refined palate can...
Nah, dude, that was around the
delicious.
time when I just got DSL internet and there were only like 400 episodes of One Piece to watch. And I was like,
What a
this is what I'm
time.
doing with my summer.
The halcyon days, the easy days right there.
I'm a fan of the higher quality things of life in animation, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and our subject today, AKIRA.
Oh, somebody new to force in the transition.
Are
Okay.
you calling me out right now? Like, fuck off.
It's about time. We've been going for 10 minutes.
Spicy.
But do it while just roasting me for my favorite things. I appreciate it.
No, but I also like them, so I'm part of that too.
Yeah, they're good. We just dunk on you because you're better than us.
Good.
He speaks the truth.
We have to cut you out at the ankles when you stand above us so tall.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. We will, every once in a while going forward, go dive into some little classic films. By classic, we mean just like, you know, movies that are like really highly renowned, but maybe a little before our time, you know,
The
before
cultural
90s.
landmarks.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we'll go back and look at content before the 1980s, but today is not that day.
Right. We were thinking, all right, we're already on some weeb shit. We forced Kaylie to watch JoJo's.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to like the classic of classic anime movies. Let's talk about Akira.
The OG
Yeah.
in many regards, and rightfully so.
If I can just mention a few facts about this, I looked up the
Welcome, ladies and
production
gentlemen,
for
to Gibby's information corner.
it. I've got to use this degree in media studies for something.
I mentioned Akira a couple weeks back, and
Mhm.
Gibby like was so excited he popped out of his seat.
Well, I'd never seen it before, and so I
Mhm.
was interested for it. And when I was at the Motion Picture Arts Museum in LA recently, there was an exhibit on it. And just the way that they showed some of the clips and the way that the characters moved and the way that their sets were designed, it fascinated me. So this was a great opportunity for us to talk about a movie that's considered one of the most important when it comes to bringing Western and Eastern culture together. So Akira was, like many great things that we like, based on a manga of the same name. The full manga was not finished at the time.
Nowhere near.
Yeah,
Nope.
but they had an idea of where they wanted to go because the original writer of the piece there, Katsuhiro Otomo, was also the director.
Oh.
The cool thing about it is that Japan in the 1980s was experiencing a really big boom with their economy. So everybody had money and everybody was just like, cool, let's do this, let's do that, let's make robots, let's also make some really cool art. So much so that 7 film companies got together to make this movie and spent 1.1 billion yen to make it. It's insane, the production and detail.
I think it ended up being like 9 million in total, like 5 million in production, and then close to 9 million after like marketing and everything else that
and
they
that's
were
like
putting into
USD,
it.
right?
Yeah,
that's USD.
US dollars. That's not yen.
Not adjusted for inflation. Lord knows what that is in today's money.
Oh, God.
The really neat things about the production is that Otomo was a huge cinephile. He was really into Western media. And because of that, he went as high quality with everything that he could, in that he shot the film on 70 millimeter, which is kind of like IMAX today, like the high quality shit.
That's the shit film snobs like raise their pinky to.
That is like enough to make Quentin Tarantino bust a nut.
Kaylie just did a thing with her tongue, and I hate it.
In a weird combination, which is really exciting for this project, I read a wonderful book about the things that Japan gave us that we kind of like overlook how big a deal they were. Read Pure Invention by Matt Alt. Fantastic book. And he spends a lot of time talking about anime's impact on Western culture and Akira's impact specifically on Japanese culture and later how it would influence Western audiences. And the thing is that for as much money that was put into it as the time because of this boom in the 80s, this story and the people that resonated with it were all of these teenagers and young adults who grew up in the economic bust that had just happened in the past, like the 20 years prior, because of protests and like demanding a change of government, and like whole bunch of revolution stuff was going on in Japan that we like overlook. And so this beautifully unique, like cyberpunk dystopian flavor we get was this projection of literally the things that people at the time had just grown up witnessing. And it's so crazy to see that like put all this money into it. Like it's insane.
Yeah, a lot of 80s anime manga art, I do have like the best word for it is nihilistic feel, because it turns out when you drop a world-ending bomb on a country, it changes shit. And wouldn't you know it, they got it twice. You're right.
Yep.
They recovered, they had a bust, and then they were recovering again in the 80s, but now those children were a lot more skeptical.
Yeah, these children had grown up in the 60s and 70s and have kind of seen
right before it was
the
about
worst
to bust again.
Yeah.
Like literally in like 2 years in the 90s, it's all going to go downhill again.
Exactly there.
But then we got Nintendo and everything turned out pretty okay.
Yeah, it turned out okay here or there. Toshiba and Toyota and everything helped out a little bit. But the other neat thing is that, like, despite the fact that the movie was not a gigantic financial success when it was first released, it ended up closing some of the animation studios that were involved in its production.
Comedy.
It eventually, snowballed into so much of a cult classic that it became the inspiration for so many of the shows in the 90s, like Ghost in the Shell and Evangelion, that helped bring anime to the US even more. Like, that's
the other
cool
pivotal thing about the late 80s is that even if you sucked in the theaters because people thought you were a weird art house feature film, animated feature, whatever, who cares? You can make bank on VHS sales, and that's what they did. They grossed over $80 million in home video sales.
Yeah.
Which is not bad at all.
They started an entire company to make the VHSs and distribute them to the US, and slowly it trickled in so much that, like, they made fucking money in the US, the UK, Australia, everywhere.
It's why anime felt like it came out of nowhere in the United States, was because not many networks even knew what it was, let alone wanted to pick it up into their slots. But boy, oh boy, could we import VHS tapes. And if you knew a guy who had like a whole season of something, there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
The neat thing, this is the last like neat thing that I'll say before we get into like a different topic of it, is that
nothing else will be neat going forward. End the episode.
Everything is just reading straight from the Wikipedia. No, but the thing that I find so interesting is that there's relatively like two big inspirations for AKIRA.
Okay.
One is, the bombs dropping during World War II and how that's culturally present through a lot of Japanese media for decades and decades. Two is Blade Runner, 1980s, kind of the first big cyberpunk thing that a lot of people had ever seen before. Two main things that inspire it. And then AKIRA goes on to inspire a billion things in our culture in the West that people don't even pick up on at first. Like, I was watching it and I went, that's Stranger Things right there.
Mm-hmm.
I read an interview with the Duffer Brothers. Yep, AKIRA, present in their mind when they're making it. The entire, like, third act is like, boom, that's Into the Spider-Verse right there.
Yeah.
It is still rippling through our culture almost 40 years after it came out. And who would have believed that a cult classic first big anime movie in the US could have ever done that?
How neat is that? That's pretty neat.
Let's talk about the presentation of this movie, because holy fucking shit, I think that's why people remember it in the way they do, right?
Like, had you guys ever watched it before?
I had never actually sat down and watched it.
Nope.
I had seen bits and pieces from when it had been like on Adult Swim or something.
Yeah.
But I've never sat down and watched it from start to finish. Of course, I've seen the stupid fucking bike scene over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Pretty damn cool.
Everybody does it. It's
everywhere.
The funny thing was, oh my god, this is gonna sound very stupid. I was multitasking when I first started watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I did give it my undivided attention later. Like after the first third, I was like fully focused on it, I swear. But during that first third, I was like, they're on the bikes a whole bunch. Where the fuck is the fucking bike slide? And it's such a blink and you miss it moment.
It's
during
very
the
quick. He's just, skirt. It was like,
I had to go back and find it just to watch it again.
He punks a clown. It lasts for 2 seconds and then it's done. I think a big part of the reason why that scene is so pivotal, on top of being fucking sweet, you do see a lot of it in the branding.
The only thing we're missing is the card games on the motorcycles. Hashtag Yu-Gi-Oh.
No, we're not doing Yu-Gi-Oh.
More AKIRA influence. We're doing things on motorcycles.
No, I watched a compilation of animations that paid tribute by doing the AKIRA bike slide. And 17 of them were that stupid Yu-Gi-Oh series where they dueled on the bikes.
Which at that point, you're like, I think they're just breaking. I don't think they're like, hey, it's AKIRA again.
It's just like, oh, this is just you guys.
When
like,
you're pitching that as
copying.
your next idea for where the season, like this season of the series can go, at that point, you're like, yeah, we're just, it was AKIRA and now it's just.
That's just how motorcycles
the animation
work.
Now.
Yeah.
That's just how motorcycles work.
Can you guys believe that this movie was animated in the 1980s?
By fucking hand, bro.
Again, no, it's actually insane.
Not only by hand, but the other fact was that when they were filming it, they recorded the dialogue before they animated the mouths so that the mouths look more accurate to what people are saying, and they animated the body language based on the voice actors that they brought in, so that not only do all of the mouths match what they're saying
in Japanese,
the body language is fluid in a way that nothing would be for basically decades. I can't even think of anything I've seen that's just like, that's a person.
Prince of Egypt was one of the American attempts at the same techniques. Was this, we want the actors in, we want more frame renderings, like artist detail shots of the mouths, so that way we can swap those in.
I can see that,
and we get those sounds in visually.
And they still do that for like three 3D animated movies, correct?
Yes, those are going to be motion capture for some characters that get those mouth movements, and then otherwise, we want your voice, and then we want to make sure your mouth looks like it's saying those things.
And I think one of the reasons why it stood out, especially the lip sync, was that lip sync is something Japanese animation doesn't even bother with. Usually, they're mostly just mop,
it's
mop,
so hard.
mop, mop. Right.
Flap matching is so, take it from somebody who's like in voice acting, flap matching is so goddamn hard. It is a skill that like nobody was like teaching for years, that these people who were dubbing this shit had to figure out what worked.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
so hard.
Which is why all dubs before like 2000 fucking suck. Sidebar, don't make the mistake that I did.
Yeah.
And start with the 1989 English dub.
Oh my God. Well, this is one of the first like, hey, we want to like show this thing to American audiences, but like they're
the
Americans.
first version is fucked.
They don't want to read. Can we just like quickly get a dub of this out? Yeah, it's the first dub is so bad. It's not good.
They dubbed it in 89. It's real shit. I got about 20 minutes in.
There's some names in there of people that are like, okay, yeah, you go on to do other things, but the 89
Aladdin
dub
is the main character.
Oh my goodness.
But then in 2001, we get my boy Johnny Young Bosch as Kaneda.
Yes.
And
You know, I could
love
tell.
this man.
I was just like, who's this guy? That's interesting. And then I like his vocal performance. I like what he does. And then I saw that it was the guy that you guys like, and I just went, oh, I get it now.
Love me some
I
Johnny
know
Young
why
Bosch.
you like this
Johnny
guy.
Young Bosch, the voice of almost every attractive, slightly quirky and or tough young male protagonist.
Every good boy anime.
Well, not just good boy, but like the soft but still bad boy.
I beat people up, but I do it for little girls.
But I do it with a smile.
Vash the Stampede breaks his archetype, but is kind of still the same. I don't know how to explain it.
You know, another thing that I really love about the uniqueness of the art style with AKIRA is that with the filming and the production, they shot it at about double the frame rate that other animated shows and movies would, which costs a lot more money, but it makes everything look so much smoother than your average show.
So buttery. The animation is so buttery. It's so
Man,
smooth.
that movie is so buttery.
It's so smooth.
In the first
dude.
scene in the bar, I just went, holy shit, this is so detailed. Every single like inch of this is incredibly, like, to a minuscule level, incredibly detailed. And you know that people were working their asses. It took 7 studios, so many that they combined for this project and called themselves, like, for this project, the AKIRA, like, union or conglomerate or something like that. And it was just like, holy shit, how did you get all the little details of this mechanical arm coming together and pulling together like it's animating a reverse ripping off of a human arm right here? How'd you do that? And also, how'd you fit in that graffiti in the background? What the fuck?
No sleep!
I think at the time as well, just on top of like how fucking beautiful this movie is, I don't think anything in terms of like violence, just like still talking about the aesthetic of it, right? It's the 80s, so cyberpunk is still really cool. Blade Runner had come out a couple years before. Terminator's doing well. Alien is Alien out by 89?
Alien was 79. Alien was like
okay,
early.
So Alien is already a classic.
Yeah, the sci-fi violence is there in culture, but they're still exploring it and the level they want to go to in mid-80s anime.
And that kind of stuff hadn't existed in like film, animated film, right?
Yeah.
Because when you talk about movies in terms of animation of a similar caliber, you're talking like shit that are musicals, right? You're not talking about a dude gets lit the fuck up about 5 minutes in.
In Western land, in America land, you had Disney, who in the late 70s, early 80s was basically hobbling on one leg to get back on their feet. Because as scary as the Black Cauldron was, it did not do well for them.
Because it sucks.
And they didn't really want to like keep doing that. They wanted to make their money back in animation. So it took a while to like, let's go in a different direction and like do something fun and cutesy and musically. But then you had Steven Spielberg with Amblin Entertainment. Fievel had some dark tones, but wasn't dark. Land Before Time and We're Back were some of the more like memorable pieces of like, oh no, shit gets dark. It's
always
here.
The dinosaur
like this
movies.
is all fun and games until like the dinosaurs are like trying to kill each other, or like the creepy old man that's been chasing the kids like disappears with the crows.
The orange T-Rex and We're Back, a dinosaur doesn't just straight up eat somebody.
He does try to.
He does try to.
But you're not going to see the gore.
That's exactly it. Like they were like, we can be scary. We're going to save like the gore, like real scary stuff for the live action though. We're not going to animate that.
But we also want to sell this movie to children. Whereas Akira is just like, fuck this shit. No, people get shot, they bleed. They bleed a lot.
Not only that, but like going in with the intent of having an adult audience that can like handle these things and isn't going to be traumatized by it. Like it's gory, but there's nothing that I would say outside of, the one scene with Tetsuo when his powers overcome him. Outside of that, I don't think it's anything what I would call excessive or like torture porn. Well, nothing like torture porn that you see in the Saw movies or anything like that later on.
Yeah, because they're short. The instances are short.
Yeah. They're still definitely mature.
Yeah, I would argue that Tetsuo's first couple of dream sequences after his powers starts to show up.
The toys. I hate the toys.
Well, pre the toys. The toys are kind of sweet.
They just creep me out.
When he's when they're on the street after he's stolen Kaneda's bike. These are the two main characters, by the way. Spoilers going forward. And he's having his first dream sequence and he guts him. He straight seppukus himself like 2 or 3 times in the middle of that dream sequence. I was like, okay.
That shit got a little wild, I'll admit it.
And part of it, from my understanding, is also like, I don't want to just be like, oh, it's a cultural difference. But like, it actually kind of is. Like Japan figured out, like when they were programming their television, they went, we can turn these comics, this manga into cartoon series, and like the kids are into it. Like they like Astro Boy, they like whatever else we're doing. Do you guys like giant robots? Do you like Gundam? Hey little boys, do you want these Gundams? And then these grown-ass men came in going, I like Gundam! And that was how they knew. That's how they knew that they could make more animated features and animated series for adults. Was just these grown-ass, and women too, like women and men equally were like, I fucking love Gundam.
Men, children, non-binary folks, everybody loves a fucking mech. Everybody loves a Gundam.
That was how they figured out that there was a market for this and that there was absolutely room to play with more mature, more adult and young adult focus.
So let's gut a teenager.
Or at least let's put titties in cartoons,
From my understanding of the artistic movement of the 80s with animation in Japan, because they had the money to experiment and because they had, the interest in it, people were able to explore a little bit more with, okay, what is our audience's limit when it comes to cartoon violence? Like, what is the limit here? And I think a lot of it is like testing the waters there to say, okay, what works from an artistic perspective and what turns an audience away? And I think what's too far. And I think that Akira, for the most part, hits like the right level of like, okay, this is dark and a bit gory, but nobody's going to run out of the theater puking or anything.
We hope. That's
maybe it was bad butter on the popcorn, but hey.
Bad buttery movies. Stale butter.
Smooth like butter.
How did y'all feel about the sound design and the music?
Holy fuck.
Oh my god, the soundtrack is incredible.
That is fucking wild. I should not keep using the word unique, but I have not seen or heard anything like that before.
I will say there is something about this soundtrack, and maybe there's other things that got to it first, and like AKIRA is just like the sort of big picture focus, and there's something that came before it, but whatever. I understand like the shit that JoJo does with the like, oh shit, like somebody's here, or like this moment is happening, and here is the like duh, duh.
Yeah.
Like this, I'm like, these moments would happen with Tetsuo like suddenly going beast mode. And I'm like, oh shit, the JoJo just does the same thing now with a
Did you
different
notice
sound.
that when Tetsuo would use his psychic powers, that stuff, that's a cappella. Like it was just all a cappella.
Yes.
It was like, oh god,
That's very cool.
this is different.
Well, and I looking at the Wikipedia page because I'm like, I need more context on this. Like, please. I love the fact that they were this was composed by Shoji Yamashiro, and he was like, yeah, we're using this kind of like what they call Indonesian gamelan.
Indonesian,
I'm so sorry if
like
I can't
folk
pronounce
music.
things.
Game of Lan.
Yes. But then also Japanese no theater. And that made me so excited.
But what about Japanese yes theater?
Get the fuck out.
Well, it just made me so excited because like that is as a theater nerd and theater scholar, it's exciting to be like, this is how we can bring
Describe no theater.
God, how do I describe no theater?
8-hour plays.
Oh god.
It's dance drama is what it's like. Again, I've not studied this extensively. I want to though. But it's dance drama. There's a lot of familiar elements in No though. Like you have these more in Kabuki as well. Like you have different makeup archetypes. You have sort of different like specific like musical pieces, dance pieces, things that like are recurring in story structure where like there are different tales here, but like because this is a very like traditional, like this has been passed down through the ages kind of thing. Like there are things that would become established in tradition that we continue to repeat in very specific
A lot
manners.
like Greek choruses, right?
Yeah, like every culture has their version of this kind of like, we've just had this for ages and like we keep doing it because it works. Where there you have your archetypal characters, you have like pieces of music or dances that are like, this is what this is about, this is what this symbolizes. And I'm just like excited when anime takes advantage of that and like brings that form into a new medium, because then you have these places where like if you understand one semiotic reference, there it is again in just a whole brand new package.
It was really cool to hear like the combination of like ancient instruments and like, you know, the sound of a Japanese drum from like either a music appreciation class or from like anime and everything. That combined in different pieces with like the synthesizer sound of the 70s and the 80s is such a fascinating mix of old world and new world to give it a balance of like the problems of the old world and the new world kind of converging.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wild design with that. And explosions.
Can
you imagine seeing this shit in IMAX?
It's the explosions. It's like the water scenes. And then certainly the more sort of like psychedelic,
dream sequences,
weird dreamscapey stuff that they do, where I'm just like, God, this must have been a bitch to animate, but it looks so
The thing that I
good.
really, really liked about the sound is with all of the cool, you know, moments of music and all of the intricate design that they did with Foley work, what I thought was really cool was when the music would drop out and they just relied on silence.
Yeah.
At times, it's just the things that are happening, you know, diegetically in the scene. You can hear people moving things around or like starting up a bike or something. But when things go absolutely quiet and it tells you to focus solely on the visuals, that is such a good artistic choice for leading an audience to focus on one element in particular.
I feel like we have moved away from that, like taste-wise, and I'm so upset by it. Like, because every dramatic moment, every like this is the breaking point after we've built the tension kind of thing, always has like either a soft piano or like a like held out string chord on like a violin or something like that. We don't just be silent. We don't have quiet for a moment. Something always has to be going.
Lost.
And it was so just beautiful to have those moments of exactly like it's empty, and this is all there is to see. Like there is nothing else here right now.
Where they really gamble is even it's not just like these really like somber moments or these moments when it's like some kind of enlightenment situation. When Tetsuo jumps into space and breaks soul and is completely silent. That's not like it's sad. It's oh fuck, kind of a moment.
There should be no sound in space moments. Fuck everything. Star Wars is a silent movie.
This 14-year-old just jumped into space and punched a laser. Get hype.
We've gotten so used to like, how do we soundscape in space when we don't know what space sounds like? You don't. Stop
What's that Omni-Man quote where he's just like,
that's the neat thing. You don't.
Yeah. In looking into Akira, right, the stuff we just talked about is the things that people always bring up, and I think are the things that really makes it an impact, right? The visuals are amazing, the soundtrack is great, the sound design is very good, but people really don't talk about the story and plot very often.
That's the most mature part of it to me. Like, holy fuck. Like, to be able to combine, like Kaylie was mentioning, about the cultural context of the time and having grown up in a time of post-war destruction and with people revolting and struggling to survive, to be able to form that into a kind of more of the subtext for the main story while being able to craft an intricate sci-fi plot as well. That was really impressive to me. And to introduce a pretty wide cast of characters who, if not always likable, are pretty understandable for their own motivations and things. That was really cool.
And I did think it was, I don't know if it was necessarily like this was a directorial choice or I was just slow to pick up on like what the stakes were, but it didn't feel like it tried to introduce you to anybody as like, this is your bad guy. This is your good guy. Like it does kind of like you kind of get framed with Kaneda as a protagonist because we're following this guy around a lot. Gee, I wonder why. But when initially like stuff starts happening to Tetsuo, is like, oh no, we have to help him. Why are these children trying to kill him? These must be evil children. Oh fuck. Oh no. Everyone was just kind of like kind of what the I almost said
Colonel,
he's
the colonel.
Whatever his name is, the commander, the colonel. Like he says, like we're being divided on purpose and we're fighting against each other, and that's not solving anything. Like that's the sort of the whole beautiful allegory of the whole movie is this, like, we start in a place of there are divided factions everywhere across. There's guys on motorcycles outside.
They're talking about Akira, dude. Make sure they do the slide. Make sure they do the slide.
Do the slide. So telling a person on a motorcycle to do the Akira slide is like telling a guitarist to play Freebird.
Right. Anyway, I don't even know if my microphone picked that up, but it was just so loud. No, like the sort of beautiful allegory of the beginning of this whole thing is like there are divided factions in a city that is like only a handful of years out of recovering from a disaster. And everyone is still pretty on edge and nothing is going to be the same no matter how much people try to make it the same. And only if you're rich and powerful, you can make it feel like nothing's changed, yada, yada. as we see that everything trying to solve the
Yeah.
problem is also divided, and that really, like, if there had been actual
so
unity,
the story
this would
is set
not have
up in,
happened.
and I think these people were I think they were the first ones to do it, question mark, Neo Tokyo. Yeah, we have all heard that shit before. But the story set up in
this is
Neo
the OG.
Yeah, the story set up in Neo Tokyo. It's the year LOL 2019.
The futuristic, whimsical year of 2019.
Why does it feel like that one joke from Harvey Birdman when the Jetsons come in and they're just like, we're from the far off year of 2002. And Harvey looks at the calendar and it just says November 2004.
Except, fun fact, George Jetson would be born this year.
Fucking
Gross.
weird.
It's the world, or at least Japan, is this version where the boom of the 80s and 90s never happened, and global warming hit like approximately 70 years early, I think.
And also a man-made unintentional disaster occurs because they were trying to, turn children into psychic weapons and
Yes.
whatnot. And boom, World War III.
We wanted to harness untapped power, and we accidentally blew up Tokyo. Who could have
That's not
seen
a
that
thing that's
coming?
ever happened before.
Holy shit, the opening image of it just scrawling across Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
and you see an explosion in silence from the middle. That must have fucked with some audiences.
Instead of some like techno
absolutely.
anime opening bullshit like beep 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 beep.
You just see like, oh, this is the city that it must 1983. Oh no, it blew up.
Hey, it was just 1983 a couple years ago.
And then we see it all
Oh.
like 35
Fuck.
years later, and we're introduced
Mhm.
like in fairly quick succession to the different factions of like the despondent youth who have nothing to do, no
Mhm.
one to care for them
Yeah.
except fuck around like on bikes,
Yeah.
like it's
high
West Side
high
Story
school Japanese
gang.
biker gangs are a thing. So like those guys are running around. Those are the guys who we follow.
Yeah, you've got those guys. You have the government, which is split into,
Military and politicians.
the politicians and the military. The
Mhm.
politicians are pissed because nothing's working, and there's a group of revolutionaries, our
Mhm.
other group right there, whereas the military is just focused on, hey, you know how we fucked up like 35 years ago with turning that kid into a psychic bomb? We're going to get it right this time. We're going to
Let's not do that again.
stop cutting my funding when I'm so close to another explosive, wrinkly child working.
Yeah, but do you really need these extra security measures? Oh
I
my
will
god.
save Neo Tokyo with bombs and explosives and children.
And explosive bomb children.
Ah.
Gibby, how did you feel about the plot and such?
Well, I was going to mention it's so cool that with those three different groups that are living around each other but not really interacting with
Mhm.
each other, you have one inciting incident that's able to tie all three groups together. Because the awesome opening sequence after, blowing up the city and cutting to 30 plus years later is pretty simple.
Oh, I thought you meant
Oh, well, I'm getting there. The whole thing starts with two, juvenile gangs going after each other. Our main characters like Kaneda and Tetsuo. Tetsuo, Kaneda, and all of their associated
Yamagata.
friends. Yeah. All their associated friends getting in a beef with some other street toughs
The
on
clowns.
motorcycles. The clowns. It's a really cool fight, but they accidentally run into one of the revolutionaries that's trying to get one of the psychic bomb children out from the clutches of the government and the military in the middle of a riot that the revolutionaries and other citizens are putting on, and the military, and they've got everything at once, but it all ties together because like they accidentally get into a wreck, and their friend Tetsuo turns out he's the perfect candidate to become a psychic bomb child. And from there, it's all three of the groups trying to get what they want, like Bo said, without realizing that they're all working against each other when they fucking need to work together. Yeah. It's the irony of it that they're all pulling at each other, but holy shit, this kid is a ticking time bomb once you start getting his innate psychic powers out. Who knew that, like, a kid that's full of rage, who has had no guidance from any family and has only grown up with his other, like, biker gang buddies, might not be the most stable person to be turned into a psychic bomb. Who knew?
I did it. Well, not me.
Why is my first thought like the Mr. Krupke
It's so
song
West
from
Side
West Side
Story.
Story, but like to the extreme? Like all these boys like complaining like, well, of course I am the way I am. I'm unstable and I have no support network except these other unstable juvenile delinquents.
And even when they do like get forced to go back to school, their gym teacher beats them up as discipline because like they're shitheads, but of course they're shitheads because their classes have 100 people in them and nobody cares about how they wind up because the government's on fire and the people are rioting in the streets because nobody... Boy, what does that sound like?
Yeah, no, they got a lot of things right in their timeline predictions. Just not all of them, but, you know, close enough. We still canceled the Tokyo Olympics the following year, and, you know, they didn't even know they were going to host the Tokyo Olympics in the summer of 2020. That did freak me out a little bit.
It's all indicative of the times from which the author grew up, right? Where it's like the overcrowding, the government is totally inept, but they still have this weird samurai, we honorable few code type bullshit, honestly. And those are the big themes throughout the story. Here's where I become the dick. The dick on the table.
Get it off. Ew.
Trademark patent pending.
No. In watching this movie, also, I read the manga first.
Okay.
And it's pretty good. Pro tip for everyone who does this. Don't read the manga first. It ruins the movie. You really start to see... I'll start with it this way, right? The movie ends with the big explosion that fucks up Neo Tokyo, right? And that's like again, right?
And creates a singularity where all these psychic children, Tetsuo
ascend to Nirvana?
AKIRA go.
Question mark.
Or at least just like another
dimension.
The
reality.
ending makes no fucking sense, and I hate it.
I still want to know. Like, I was trying to find what the child meant when they were like, "But it's already begun." Maybe we have time to
do what?
To do what?
What do you mean?
What is
It's
it?
cryptic, which means it's
no
good.
one has answers.
Yeah, no, it's stupid and it's dumb and it doesn't make any sense.
Stop being vague on purpose,
but-
damn it.
So that's how the movie ends, right? With the explosion. In the manga, that explosion happens in chapter 17 of 38.
So it's the halfway point.
Less than halfway through.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff they do. Imagine you're watching Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, right, for the first time, and all the little stuff they have to do for movie or book movies where they like kind of change this character and take the plot here. But instead, the Weasleys get shot about 5 minutes in. Dumbledore dies at the end. McGonagall's not in it at all. Voldemort isn't an actual dude. He's a brain in a jar, right? That's what it feels like when you're watching this after having read the manga. A lot of characters who have significance either die really early before they should or don't show up at all. One of the biggest examples is the priestess the rebel religion. The kind of like street prophet.
The weird
the
AKIRA cult.
First off, in the manga, nobody fucking knows anything about AKIRA until AKIRA shows up. Like there's no people talking about like, that's AKIRA. AKIRA is the blah, blah, blah. Nobody knows what it is. It's a secret. He's a secret weapon. Right.
Right. That was always what I was like confused about. Like, is this supposed to be some like deity spiritual energy thing, or like what the hell's going on, and then it actually is just a brain in a jar that turns into a boy.
Cult in the movie is actually like a respected religion, and the leader, Lady Miyako, is one of the most important characters in the entire story. So lo and behold, how angry I am when she gets 2 scenes and she gets fucking run over in the second one. A lot of character motivations. I want to talk about the small ones first before I get into the really, really big ones around Tetsuo and Kaneda.
Oh, I want to talk about Tetsuo a lot, and we'll get there.
Yeah, the Colonel's motivations and perspective are completely different in the movie versus manga. They really make him like an honorable samurai type who's like postulating and talking about the future. In the manga, he's like, nope, I'm a secret agent and I just want to do my job. Don't talk to me. Kaori doesn't exist until very late in the game. In the manga, she didn't go to school with them. She's not like Tetsuo's girlfriend. For real, for real. Akira is an actual dude. I have in my notes in all caps, Akira isn't even a dude in this. Akira is a person. He's an actual guy. In the manga, it still doesn't make a lot of sense who he is or what his whole deal is, but he is a little boy.
Essentially, like from my understanding, it's kind of like, to compare it to Stranger Things, having like the original child that we didn't know how to harness the power of, and because we didn't, everything went kablooey.
Akira in the manga, in the movie, that's what he is, right? Everything went kablooey and he died and they salvaged his organs and then froze him underground. In the manga, it's the same. Akira is kind of the original Tetsuo, and he was the strongest psychic of the numbers. Sidebar, the numbers in the movie are implied to look the way they do because they're children who took a bunch of drugs. That's not what it is. It's because it's a plot hole and the movie doesn't address because they don't have time. It's because they're children who took a bunch of drugs and those drugs stunted their growth, but it didn't stop their aging. They look like that because they're old.
Yep.
I started to pick up on that here and there.
Like, and they try to like throw it in at the very end where it's like, but you see like how everything else looks different when they're testing. Like this is the 50s. This is before all of this started, right? You get that they're old, they're just small.
Yeah, but
right?
back to Akira. He is the physical. He's still a child. The boy is still alive and not jars, and he's frozen in the bottom. And he mentally has ascended in the late game of the manga. The manga is a lot of environmental conditional storytelling until it isn't, and they just like vomit lore onto you. Akira has like ascended mentally, and he kind of doesn't have a personality anymore, but he's also still around to like help humanity evolve even further, which is what the psychic powers are for. It makes no fucking sense, but Akira's a dude. Is what I'm saying.
He's more of a present character than like a legend or an ideal that people have.
Yes.
Or Bodio's favorite trope in Japanese media, the god that has to be killed by the end.
But I think the biggest,
because it's another let's kill God.
It is another let's kill God, and I'm
kind of.
Let's have God kill us.
Finally.
The way I interpreted it is like, with so much of the power, with so much inspiration coming from the dangers of the atomic age and, the atom bomb and everything, a lot of this movie is going, people should not have access to this kind of power, especially one, with how unstable it can be, but two, like how complicated people can be and the way that we have set up our bureaucracy, that we have so many hands in the pot that we don't know who's kind of in control, and then people fight to get in control of that thing, and then they don't have control of that thing.
Right.
It's all those elements of like, this is an awesome, unknowable power that can change everything. But isn't it kind of cool too?
Right.
Obviously, the moral choice is for us to just say, no more big nukes and everything. But isn't it kind of badass when Tetsuo is flying and when he's got his psychic energy and he's doing the earth bending and stuff and blasting guys back like 11 from Stranger Things? Isn't that cool? But also it's bad.
11 from Stranger Things would be blasting guys back like Tetsuo.
Exactly.
In the newest season of Stranger Things, the original test subject explodes people.
Yes,
is what
dude,
I'm saying.
and I'm saying they would have got that from Akira, not the other way around.
Well, no, I'm just making the comparison of something that it later inspired.
Kaylie, you were about to say something.
Yes. Well, no, I as much as I like the cheeky idea of let's have God kill us, it does. At least the movie is that what that one ends up being, because it starts like 2/3 in as we set up finally. Let's just like, oh no, we have to take out Tetsuo. He's becoming too great. Like
he can't handle.
Right. That it is Kaneda doing the like, all right, he was my best friend, but now it's time to kill God.
Yeah.
And then when we resurrect Akira and the other espers,
the numbers,
espers, make the decision to like we have to pocket dimension and take ourselves out of the equation.
Save the boy.
It is the like, let's like, if like, then it's the like, let's have God kill our problem instead. And exactly, we take ourselves out. We are no longer a part of this. We like, what is left for us in this world that is going to be constantly fighting over the ability to control us in that way? Like, that is the only answer, is to just to be gone.
Let's talk about the two boys.
Tetsuo! Kaneda! Tetsuo! Kaneda! Tetsuo! Kaneda! Kaneda! Tetsuo! Kaneda! Tetsuo! Tetsuo! Kaneda! 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 Tetsuo!
We've been skirting around it because we want to make it a thing. Hey, she did it. She did the thing. She did the slide.
Skirt.
I did the slide in an audio medium. Beat that.
The first ever. How inspirational.
Akira slide in a podcast.
Best award we could ever receive.
It's just like a little like Hot Wheels motorcycle.
It really does amaze me that like in a story from Japan in the 1980s that, like we mentioned earlier, I get so many of the themes that I got from parts of West Side Story, like from when we watched that.
Right.
Because my whole thing was just like, you two could probably solve your problems if you weren't pissed off little boys all the time. And if you'd listen to each other. Like, it seems that young male rage is a universal sort of topic.
It's a universal language.
But I get it at the same time.
Young male rage against a system taking advantage of their unstable background will always be angry and determined, but so confused and misguided.
So the interesting thing that the manga does versus the movie is this movie works very hard to make you feel for Tetsuo.
Yeah.
He's like the runt of the litter who gets bullied.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to get out of the city.
We spend so much time with him. Like, I mean, Kaneda's our main character, but I feel like there's a lot of times where I just sort of forgot that he was our protagonist.
It's like dual protagonists.
Okay, in the manga, none of that shit exists.
Good.
Really?
And this is why I had a hard time enjoying the movie. Let me say all this after I say, hey, this movie fucking slaps. Go watch it, please.
Yes.
It's an experience.
Pay your dues to your anime history ancestors and go watch Akira. Because I've been avoiding paying my dues for the longest time, and now I have, and it's well worth it.
What I wanted Evangelion to be was actually Akira all along.
Evangelion sucks.
Evangelion sucks a dick. This rocks ass. Akira rules ass.
So, going in order, what the manga does that is much more interesting but harder to do than the movie is they don't try to make any of these characters redeemable until like the shit's almost over and they're like, oh right, we kind of want a happy ending. They take out all of the drug use that the kids use. Y'all ever wonder why Kaneda has a giant pill on the back of his jacket? It's because those kids pop Molly. They go hard.
They're the capsules.
The capsules.
So, and that's completely taken out until Tetsuo has his fall, and it's supposed to be presented as like, oh, now he's a bad guy. Now he's taking drugs, and that's what really changed his personality. When contrary to that, really all their kids, their whole biker gang takes those drugs, and then they go on joyrides. The opening scene where they're fighting the clowns isn't that. They're just on a joyride, and then the first number they run into gets in their way. Tetsuo almost runs into him, and that's why the military picks him up. Not because they're like, hey, he's a potential psychic. It's because, hey, this kid almost hit one of our psychics. Let's get him out of here so he doesn't talk to anybody. And the reason when they do start to interfere with the clowns, it's because the clowns go after one of their gang. When Tetsuo starts to experience his headaches and get real sick because of his psychic powers, because of the experiments done on him, he goes
that exposure.
Yeah, he goes to the clowns and he gets drugs from the clowns to feel better. So he's constantly just like inhaling capsules, right?
Yeah.
He then goes after his own gang members. And that's why Kaneda and Tetsuo want to kill each other so bad. Not because they're stupid, dumb kids who want to talk to each other, because it is gang shit. It's like, you fucked with my crew, you have to die.
Yeah.
Japanese gang, like everything I've ever heard about them, I'm just like, you're scary.
Yakuza don't
You're really
fuck around.
scary.
Like, do not mess with those guys. If you see a guy with back tattoos in Japan, don't talk to him. He's scary. He will kill you.
There is only one trustworthy gang member, and it's the guy who saved Josuke when he was a kid in JoJo's Diamond is Unbreakable. And that was the whole point, where it was just like, just because I look like this doesn't mean like I can't be a good guy.
Also, the whole thing about Tetsuo being the runt of the litter and everything isn't real. I think I said this before. It's not real in the manga.
Yeah.
And I feel like reading that and then watching this, their willingness to kill each other when it's like, this is gang shit versus we're being stupid kids in a movie.
Ego.
Yeah, it feels more real, right? Like, I feel like if my sick friend was just like, hey, fuck you, I wouldn't come at him with a laser gun and try to shoot him in the stomach. You feel me?
It sounds like how we experienced life as, young teenage boys, because these kids they're teenagers. They're obviously on the younger side of teenage
14.
life. They're 14. I thought they were like 15 or 16, but holy
I was
fuck.
thinking 16.
They're 14,
Shit.
15.
So basically, imagine at that age when you've had a problem with one of your buddies for months to years. You do not have the right emotional state to be able to express your feelings unless you have a great tutor or therapist to be able to address these problems.
You've also
together.
been popping Molly and popping wheelies since you were 12.
Exactly.
There
It
is
fucks
something
kids up.
so interesting to me about the way that Japan uses teenagers in plots.
What do you mean?
Like every teenager, when they're like introduced to you as a like teen, even if that's the case, like, they're in high school or something, you're like, okay, you're 17, 16. I'm 14. What the fuck? Like, I really can't tell if it's just like an American like blinders that I'm trapped in, or like if there's just a cultural difference.
Cultural difference. I think it comes from a combination of that's their target audience usually for this for anime and kind of stuff. And it's also part of the trope that everything takes place in a fucking Japanese high school. It's because these kids go to school 6 days a week. Like they
grow up fast.
They spend most of their lives in high school. So of course all of their stories are about, you guessed it, being in high school.
Not only that, there's a cultural difference in like kids growing up quicker, because if you've ever seen the Netflix program called Old Enough, it's about like kids getting their first like errand that they do to support the family. And it's like, oh, cool, cute kids. Those kids are like 2 or 3 years old, going to the grocery store, walking by themselves to go pick up something for dinner. Holy shit, those kids are competent. What the fuck?
No, like I was going to say, like, that was going to be my hypothesis. Like, is it because at a younger age, children are given the freedom to have more responsibility, like as a member of the family and the household, that like by the time you're a teenager, you basically you already feel like you have so much.
They've also been grinding you out with the like lack of work-life balance that you've been. The equivalent of a Japanese 13-year-old is an American 38-year-old with
it's
impressive
but scary in a lot of different ways. And I think more of the ways to me are scary, but I don't know.
It's very scary to me. It's incredibly scary.
AKIRA sliding back to the boys. I do like their relationship in the movie. I do like that they have this they have the rivalry, you're good ass, I'm badass kind of. But the violence towards each other doesn't feel as justified as the movie makes it out to be. And again, I feel like my opinion is most of this because we see Tetsuo and Kaneda in the manga are both irredeemable people, even as children. They're drug addicts. It's Kaneda gets a girl pregnant in the beginning of the manga, and then she's like, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And he's like, "Dude, that's sweet. Good luck with that."
Yikes!
They do keep him like just enough of a dirtbag without being like completely.
He's still our charismatic, getting shot at, spitting out one-liners, saving the girl kind of guy, which keeps him likable.
But also has that edge of just like, well, fuck you, I didn't want you anyway.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is realistic for that age.
We haven't even we don't even have time for me to talk about all this stuff. Kay is a lot less cool in the movie. She's still giving her time in the movie, which I was very appreciative of. But she's a lot less cool in the movie than she is in the manga. The whole reason the numbers are able to act through her is because she is also a psychic. She just doesn't have the drugs or the time to get good at it. So they're like, we're going to pilot you like a Gundam.
She's a conduit for them.
Yeah.
Meat mech.
I said earlier, Lady Miyako just gets run over by a car and doesn't even get lines. Rio, who's very important to the K's mentor character with the mustache, who just gets shot in the gut.
Yeah.
He actually survives a lot longer. Justice for my girl Chiyoko in the manga, who's just a big lady who fucks people up. Literally the kind of motherfucker to kill you with your own gun. She's so sick, and she doesn't show up at all. That said,
for what they do in a time period of what they have, with the amount of work it takes.
It's a 2 hour long movie. Perfect runtime. Thank you.
Yeah. Like an hour and 43 minutes or something.
Beautiful. I miss it.
Just if they had to animate any more of that movie, they would have exploded.
Literally combusted.
Their wrists would have broken with how much drawing you have to do for everything. Like, it would have been insane. But, like, I mean, it's pretty impressive to me that they were able to weave a story with 3 or 4 different factions and make it make sense for all of them to be involved and work in subtexts and work in themes that I got, like,
and get this beautiful,
fairly quickly,
terrifying body horror, which it makes sense now. I didn't know that the writer of the manga was involved. Tetsuo becoming the giant homunculus flesh baby. Homunculus is the wrong word there, but the Cronenberg nightmare fuel stuff. It has more of a symbolic meaning in the manga, but that's because they have time to build to that. Whereas in this, it's like, nope, it's creepy and it's kind of badass, so we're putting it in.
No, like it's exciting. It is fucking
Terrifying.
horrible.
Yo, when my girl
I
Kaylie
hate
just gets
it.
squished.
Yeah, terrifying. Like, I can see so much of the inspiration now with what they did, later in Evangelion and later in... I know. I'm just saying that I see it. As well as in, like...
That was one of those, like, oh, I love Attack on Titan.
Imagine him screaming and then
and he just becomes an ugly, fleshy baby.
You're like, oh no.
No, I was gonna say, like, I got some of Full Metal Alchemist, like the finale
I was
of
gonna
that.
say,
Mm-hmm.
there's like some Full Metal Alchemist, but there's also I think there's a handful of anime that do these like weird baby monster things.
Yep.
As part of like character design, like oh god, my Bleach knowledge is failing me, but one of the captains,
Captain
the scientist,
Kurotsuchi.
yeah, like his
Bankai.
Zanpakuto has like the baby face. Like there's so much stuff that I'm like, now that I think about it, weird creepy baby face in Japanese anime. I wonder if it's a callback to that because it's just so weird.
And then Resident Evil 8 with the scary baby.
Oh, fuck off.
Yes.
That was the most scared I've ever seen you when you were streaming that.
Yup, yeah. I never finished RE8 because I got to the Sunset Villa and I was like, fuck this game.
You can probably thank Akira for that.
No, I wonder if it is like a nod in some way, shape, or form to the weird baby monster.
You just eventually in life, like as civilization is collapsing and you see somebody imbued with too much nuclear radiation, bubbling flesh in front of you, changing into something new and horrifying, you just go,
Nope, fuck that.
hey, that's an Akira reference.
And then you get squeezed.
and then you get squeezed. That's it.
You die with the smug satisfaction that you saw the critics' choice of anime from the 1980s, that you were just like, I might be dying, but at least I saw the equivalent of a Criterion Collection classic before I went.
But that means that your opinion just matters more than anyone else in your friend groups if they haven't
Get
seen
fucked.
it.
Did I like the Criterion Collection movies I've seen? And the A24 movies I've seen? Not really.
No.
Does it make me better than everybody else in film studies? Absolutely.
Okay. I think we'll end there.
You can't beat that.
I think we'll end
Seriously, this movie fucking rules.
Yeah, this movie's awesome.
Even if you can't do cool tricks on motorcycles, you got the smug satisfaction of knowing you've watched a cult classic.
I'm gonna go fuck up an Akira slide on a big wheel from Fisher Price.
Please send pictures.
That's been this episode of the Liberal Artist Podcast. Y'all, thank you for joining us. Come back next time when it's just an hour and a half of audio of us skirting and falling and fucking up the Akira slide. Just a lot of
plastic wheels tumbling as you hear me topple over onto asphalt in the street.
peace.
The Liberal Artists Podcast premieres every other Thursday on your favourite podcasting platform. The show is hosted by Bodio, Kaylie Horowitz, and Andy Gibson. You can find the show at LibArtistsPod on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks to Whitehot for performing the theme song Reflect, which can be found on freebeats.io. Now, I'm off to go exploring, and maybe, just maybe, I'll find a sheep that I can call my own. Good day.
POOTIS.
Put Spencer here! Put Spencer here!
My head hurts.